Okay, so we're looking at the money management unit. We started doing personal loans. We're on page 25, which were the questions. So we're going to do the solutions, and hopefully our solutions match up with the answers in the back. That's the plan anyway. Okay, looking at the following chart. Taking out a loan of $5,000. The loan terms are that you have 4 years to pay it back in monthly payments, and this is the interest rate you're going to be charged. So to find the monthly payment, we have to use the chart, right? It's personal loans. If you want to find the monthly payment, you're going to have to use a special chart. And that chart was a couple pages back on page 22. Page 22. So, what are the two numbers from here that I need to use the chart? Yeah, I just need these two numbers, and then I go look at the chart. So if I go back to the chart, so 5.5 and 4 years. So 5.5%, 4 years. My payment is going to be $23.32 per thousand. Okay, so what I'm going to do, like per $1,000 borrowed, is I'm going to go write that number down. 2332, and that's per thousand, which means divide by 1,000, and times the loan amount. So on your calculator, 2332 divided by 1,000 times 5,000. $116.60 per month. Okay. Is that reasonable? Yeah. A real quick way to see if it's reasonable, like if you've done it right, is to just quickly multiply that number by how many payments you're going to make. It's 4 years, right? Times 12 months, like 12 payments a year. So if I took that number and I just went times 12 payments per year times 4, I get $5,596.80. And then I go look at my original loan, which was $5,000. And I'm like, yeah, that seems reasonable because I'm paying back a little extra, right? The bank's making money off me. Now, if I did that little calculation, I got like 100,000 here, I know that I've screwed it up. The number you get should be a little bit bigger than what you started with here. And that's a quick way of checking if you've done it right. You're going to have to do that later anyway for certain questions. But if I'm doing a test in math, I want to know exactly that I've done everything right. Okay, next one. I'm going to use these two numbers, 4.75% and 1 year. And I'm going to go back here, $85.56 per month, per thousand, $85.56. Per thousand times 13,500 equals $1,155.06 per month. Anybody else get that? Yeah. Why is the payment so big?
Less years.
Yeah, because it has to be paid back so quickly, right? I have to pay this person's paying it back in 1 year. So those payments have to be pretty big. So if I check that amount, if I just multiply that by 12, I get 13,860, which is just a little bit bigger than that, so it makes sense. And that's generally, it's because of that people tend to like longer loans, because they can get that payment down, right? But you don't want to get in a position where you've got payments on your whole life, right? You got your cell phone payment, you got your furniture payment, you got your car payment, you got your house payment, and eventually you're just drowning in payments that never seem to end. And that's what happens to people. They take on too much debt, and it's spread out over too long a period of time. They just can't seem to get out of it. You know anybody like that? We call it drowning in debt. You ever heard that expression before? Like it's water, and you're drowning in debt. Okay. Hopefully that never happens to you. Those kind of people, they keep buying lottery tickets, hoping that it's their way out. You know, if you're buying lottery tickets as a strategy to get out of debt, you're desperate. You're in trouble. If you think buying lottery tickets is your best option to get out of debt, you're in big trouble. Because the chances of you getting hit by lightning are many times better than winning a lottery. Yeah, you got your tickets. I was just saying with lottery tickets, I said, if you've been hit by lightning twice, sure, you should play the lottery. But if you haven't been hit at all, don't play. Okay. So this one, the numbers we're looking for are 7% and 5 years. 7%, 5 years. So that's $19.81. So we'll go put that in there. Per thousand times the loan amount of $7,800. Oops. $154.50, I guess I have to round up because that's an 8, 52 cents. Anybody else get 154.52? Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, next one. 6 1/4. What's a quarter as a decimal? Yeah, that's on the chart. You're going to have to use 6.25. They won't have the fraction there, so 6.25. If you're not sure, if you remember back to the first unit, you can always go on your calculator. 6 1/4. I would just go 6 and. What's and in math? Plus, and then I'll use brackets, 1 divided by 4. That's a quarter, okay? And then I hit, oh, there you go, 6.25. So I can always convert if I'm not sure. Okay, 6.25 and 3 years over here. 6.25, 3 years, 30.54. So $30.54 per thousand times $10,750. All right, so we got $328.31. We're just correcting these. Okay, and the last one on this table here, 8.5% and 2. I'm going to go look at the chart. And it's $45.46. Okay, 45.46. And let's see what we get here. $829.65. Yeah? That's a pretty hefty payment there, but again, it's a pretty big loan, right? It's enough to buy a decent car nowadays, and paid back in 2 years. Those payments are going to be pretty big, right? Usually people buy big ticket items like something $20,000 or bigger. Usually they try to spread those payments out in a longer period of time. You must be making a pretty good wage if you can afford like $829.65 a month on like a car payment or something. Number 2. Brent borrows $3,500 to buy a scooter. He takes out a personal loan for 2 years at 6.25%. So that's the information I need to use the chart. 2 and 6.25%. So let's go look at that. 6.25, 2 years, 44.44. That's what I'm going to write down. So from the chart, I got 44.44 per thousand. It didn't say anything in this question about taxes. I don't know if it's a new item or a used item. Let's just do it without taxes and let's see what happens in the answers. It should usually tell you in the question. If it's on a test question, it'll tell you if you need to like add taxes and stuff. Okay? If it doesn't say anything, then just use the number that's there. So times 3,500. So maybe it's a used item, doesn't, and you know, maybe it's a Kijiji thing, and you don't have to pay any taxes on it. Okay, so $44.44 divided by 1,000 times 3,500. The monthly payment's going to be $155.54. Does that match with the number in the back? Yeah? Okay, so they didn't add any taxes in. Okay, good. Okay, how much will he pay back to the bank in total? So with that one, I just take the number that's still in my calculator and I multiply by the total number of payments, which is always going to be times 12 for months, and then it's always going to be times what? The years, how many years it is. So I take that, so it's going to be the payment times 12 months per year times the number of years, always for these questions. So in this case, 155.54 times 12, and it was a 2-year loan, right? Times 2. So it's still in my calculator there, so I can just punch it in. Saves me a step. Times 12 times 2. Total paid back is $3,732.96. Anybody else get that? Yeah. Good. Okay, and the last question. What's the total amount of interest? Remember, this is bank profit. That's your special way of saying thank you to the bank for lending you the money. You should try and see if they'll just accept a simple thank you next time you do this kind of thing. So what do I do? Yeah, just take it away. Take away the initial amount, the loan amount, to see how much extra you paid. So minus 3,500. And it looks like our special thank you, or Brent's special thank you for borrowing money, is to gift the bank $232.96. Which isn't too bad, but keep in mind it's only 2 years, and it's a small, relatively small loan. Everybody else get that? $232.96? Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, if you didn't get all these answers down, you can check them after. Or you can go where? You can go on the blog, yeah. You can watch those answers magically appear in live time. Well, recorded live time. Along with my sarcastic sense of humor. Okay. Page 26. Magda requires a personal loan.
Sorry, you said major. Major.
Oh, Magda? Requires a personal loan of $7,800. Her bank offers her a 5-year loan at a fixed interest rate of 9.25%. Okay, so those are the two numbers I need for the chart, right? The 5 and the 9.25%. So let's go look at the chart. So there's the 9.25, and there's the 5. 2088, is that what you got? Okay. All right. So let's use 2088 from the chart. That's the chart number. That's per 1,000, and you got to multiply that by the loan amount, which is 7,800. All right, and then we'll punch that in. $162.86 monthly payment. Anybody else get that? Yeah? Okay. How much would she pay the bank in interest over the 5 years? Okay, so this one requires 2 steps then. So always find the total amount paid and then subtract the loan amount. So 2 steps. So total amount paid. So total paid is going to be the $162.86 times 12 payments a year times 5 years in this case, right? So total paid back is $9,771.84. It's quite a bit more than the loan. Any idea why it's so much more?
Years.
It's longer, it's 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
And what's even more important than the number of years?
The rate.
The rate. The higher that rate is, the happier the bank is, right? And the less happy you should be, right? So if you need to take out a loan, you shop around, you go to a whole bunch of places, you spend 2 or 3 days doing it, and you get a low interest rate. You spend 3 hours at one place, they're going to offer you 6%, and then you leave, and you go to the next place, and you say, well, the last place was offering me 6%. And you start there, and you work its way down. Then you leave that place, then you go to the next place, okay? It's worth it. You'll save a lot of money. Okay, so how much would she pay in interest? So interest paid.
Why did I got the same answer as she did.
What'd you get?
The 0.60.
It's
Like
60. That's what
This
it
one?
also stays on my calculator.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just check that. 162.86 times 12 times 5. Oh, you know what? Okay. This is an interesting thing. So, how many of you got 0.84? Yeah? So, when that happens, when the answer in the back is a little bit different than yours, you likely did it correct, but you probably didn't clear your calculator.
No, I didn't.
No, you probably did. So, I didn't. So, here's what happened. So, on the initial question there, it was 2088 divided by 1,000 times 7,800. And it was actually 162.86. See that little leftover 4 there?
Yeah.
I didn't clear my calculator when I did this, so that's why I didn't have any rounding till the end. It made a difference of what, 24 cents, right? I can even prove it. Okay, so the amount, that little leftover 4 there, is actually, if I subtract off the answer, 162, the rounded off answer, I have a leftover 4/1000th of a cent, of a dollar, sorry. So 4/10 of a penny, okay?
I use the same method.
Yeah, so what happened was, because I didn't clear my calculator, when I multiplied by 12 and 5, that extra amount became like 19 cents. So it made a difference in the end, right? So on a test or something, I would accept both. Okay, I would accept both. I'm not gonna penalize you for not clearing your calculator. Okay? It's easier to have it in there and just keep going. So I did it, so I'm not gonna penalize you for it. So, but here, I'll just redo it using the rounded off amount. 162.86 times 12 is 5. Yeah, so 0.60 then, right? Okay, good enough. And the interest paid would be this amount, the total. Subtract the original loan, which was $7,800, right? So total paid minus the loan. 977. Yeah, it's quite a bit. So in this loan, Magda, 5 years after taking out the loan, had to give a gift to the bank of almost $2,000. That hurt. So if you ever have to take out a loan, you want this to be as low as possible, right? But at least she took out a loan and paid it off. Other people for this amount, they use a credit card. And then they end up paying like 20-something%, which means this will like more than double by the time they pay it off. So credit cards are particularly dangerous for large loans. Okay for small stuff. If you're in the hundreds of dollars, credit cards are okay. Once you're in the thousands of dollars, credit cards are very, very dangerous. Okay? Okay, number 4. Magda, from question 3, we're dealing with the same Magda, has decided to go to a credit union to borrow the $7,800. The credit union offers her a 3-year loan at a fixed rate of 8.75%. So slightly better rate, right? So A, what is Magda's monthly payment to the credit union? Well, first of all, this year it's a 3-year loan, so the payment might be higher because it's a shorter period of time. So use those two numbers. So go to the chart. $8.75 and 3 years, $31.68. Okay. What was it again? $31.68 per thousand times 7,800. $247.10. Okay, so notice it's a bigger payment than it was in question 3, but it's also shorter term, just paying it back faster, so you're going to pay more that way. B, how much would she pay the credit union in interest over the 3 years? So same kind of thing. We're going to take our $247.10 and we're going to multiply by our 12 months and our 3 years to find out how much she paid. $8,895.60. Anybody else get that? Yeah. Okay, and then we're going to subtract the loan amount from that, which was $7,800. $1,095.60. Yeah. So notice that Magda paid significantly less money to the bank, to the credit union, than she paid to the bank in the first question. So C, would you advise Magda to take the loan from the bank or the credit union? Which one was a better deal? Credit union was a better deal. Right. So probably a good answer would be something like, if Magda could afford to make a slightly higher payment, then the credit union deal saves her a lot of money. Okay, so that might be one way to look at it. So Again, usually in an answer key, you'll see this really annoying statement, answers may vary. Have you seen that before? Which means there's no one right answer, but one possible answer that you would certainly be given credit for would be to say that if Magda can afford to make the higher monthly payment, the credit union loan will save her money. And it's quite a bit of money, so I'm going to put 3 money signs. Does that make sense? Any other possible answers? Did anybody say something different? Unfortunately, when people go for loans, a lot of people just go for the lowest payment. They just completely ignore how much it's going to cost them in the long run. They just say, oh, this one's got a lower payment, I'll go for that one. Which is not a good financial decision usually. If it were me, I would always just go for the lowest interest rate. I find that that's more important to the final bill than the term, like that interest rate. Fight to get it low. Remember, when you leave a bank or credit union or whatever, should they be smiling at you as much as they were when you came in? No. Okay? They should still be friendly, but not quite as happy as when you showed up.
What does that
Then you
say?
did a good job.
The credit union loan?
Yeah. Will save her money. Okay, number 5, almost done. It's the middle of winter and Simon's furnace just broke. It will cost $3,000 to replace it. That's a good deal. I have a boiler. It's way more expensive and it keeps breaking and I don't want to replace it. His credit card only has an available limit of $2,200. He is willing to get a payday loan for the remaining amount of $800. Explain why getting a personal loan from the bank would be a better option for Simon. Okay, we talked about this a little bit. Anybody know what the problem is with payday loans? Yeah, they actually have criminally high interest. There's actually lawyers fighting the courts in Canada to get the rules changed because payday loans can charge several 100%. That they get around the rules of, like, credit cards are better, infinitely better than payday loans. So, way too high fees / interest rates. So really that's the reason. Never go into a payday loan place. They have different names, right? Money Mart's probably the most common. Anybody know any other payday loan places?
Instant cash.
Yeah.
There's actually a place called Payday Loans.
Yeah, payday loans. Any payday loan places are we call them exploitative places. They're there to take advantage of people who are desperate. Pawn shops are also the same thing, right? I didn't even really understand how pawn shops work. Anybody ever used a pawn shop?
Yeah.
You've used it? Like you pawned something?
Yeah. I pawned a heater and some games and stuff before.
Just for cash?
Yeah, just for cash.
Okay.
You get a lot lower than what you paid for.
You get a lot lower than what you paid for, yeah. But apparently that's not where they make most, like if you pawn off stuff, which means you just sort of sell it off, that's one way. You sell it really low, you need cash right away, and then they sell it higher, right? That's one business model. But apparently they make even more money by having people bring in bring in like high value things like jewelry, and they give them cash, but then they give them a certain amount of time to like buy it back. Like people just need temporary money, so they're holding it for them.
Yeah, but you can also for extension pay for extension.
Pay for extensions and stuff. But what happens is, so if someone takes the ring there and they pawn it off, but they want to buy it back, the pawn shop will give them money. But then if they come back to buy the ring back, they pay extra.
And then they put like $30 for the week, and then
Yeah, they just keep
they
adding.
by that week, and then they add more.
Yeah. And so basically it ends up working kind of like a payday loan kind of thing, just as bad.
Pawn shop, they actually cash checks and stuff.
They do cash checks. They probably take a big cut, right? So they act like payday loan places. So payday loans and pawn shops are not good places to be getting money from. Hopefully you don't have to use those ever.
I don't think it's that hard to get a payday loan.
They make it pretty easy, right? Yeah. So 6, Silvio has a personal loan of $5,000. Can you use your knowledge of monthly payments and the chart on page 22 to identify the interest rate and how many years it's for? Can you do that?
No.
I don't think so, right? You'd have to have some other piece of information, right? You'd have to...
It's $5,000.
the only way you're going to be able to go backwards to find the interest rate and the years is if you actually have the monthly payment. So we would have to know the monthly payment first. So for example, didn't have to do this, but let's say, just for the sake of argument, let's say we knew the monthly payment was $89.85, and it wanted to know, and the question asked you, can you figure out the term, how long it was for, and the interest rate? Yeah, you could, because in all these questions here, remember what we did? We took the number from the chart, we divided by 1,000, and then we multiplied by 5,000. We could just go backwards. So if it was for a, let's say a $5,000 loan, I could just start with my payment. So let's say my payment was $89.85. I could go backwards by dividing by 5,000. Instead of dividing by 1,000, I could multiply by 1,000. And I would get this number here, $17.97. Then I would go back to the chart and see if that number's on the chart. I'd go back to the chart and I'd look for $17.97 and I'd say, oh, there it is. That means it was 5 years at 3%. So I could go backwards if it gave me a monthly payment, but it didn't, so I don't really know how you would do that. They found an answer? Well, let's go take a look. Did anybody figure out the answer in the back? Did anybody figure that out on their own? No, that means there's a problem in the question. So whoever wrote the question must have put the monthly payment in. So in order, so yeah, there's no way you could have figured that out on your own. So what, I bet you what the question was supposed to be, 9.25 and 4. If I go to the chart, 9.25, 25, yeah.
Well, it says, can you use your rule of monthly payment?
It says, hold on. Can you use your knowledge of monthly payments in the chart? Yeah, you can use your knowledge, but you'd have to have the monthly payment. So I think there's a mistake here. I think the question was supposed to tell you the monthly payment is $25. So if the monthly payment was $25, we could have gone backwards and found it. We could have taken 25, divided by 5,000, times 1,000, and you would have got you would have figured it out. Yeah, you would have had, you needed more information here. Nobody got this, right? Nobody found that? Because I'd like to know what magic you did to figure that out. So you'd have to do some kind of crazy magic to figure out what the question was. So if you didn't get number 6, there's a mistake in it, so you can just like omit this one. Yeah, okay. And okay, that's about it for this stuff. There's a bit more information on, so all you were supposed to know about payday loans so far is that the interest rates are like really terrible. Right? Don't go there. This section here, it actually allows you to sort of see how much they charge you, like how they rip you off. Okay. So did you know? The laws are a little bit different, I think, in each province, but in Manitoba, the borrowing cost is $17 for every $100 you borrow. So if you go into a payday loan, you say, I need $1,000, they're going to charge you $170 for that. Okay?
That's crazy.
Now, yeah, it's crazy. Now, if it was for if you had a year to pay it back, that would be 17%, which is not great, but it's still slightly better than credit cards. But that's not how payday loan places work. Do you know how long they want you, like how much time they give you to pay them back?
Next pay.
Usually it's next payday, which for most people is like 2 weeks maybe, right? So they want you to pay, basically this is the whole scheme. It's a scheme, right? What they do is they get you to pay like a year's worth of interest payments up front, not at the end, at the beginning, and then they get you to pay the loan back in a really short amount of time. So you've paid for a year, but you've only got a couple weeks. So it's roughly equivalent to paying like, paying $170 on a $1,000 loan. It's like you have to do that every 2 weeks. It's almost like you have to do that, if you had to do that every time, if you're getting paid every 2 weeks, you would do that 24 times. It's like you're paying them $4,000. Okay, so that's the tricky part of payday loans. Is they try to make it seem like they're not taking that much, but given it's such a short amount of time, they're ripping you off. Very scary business plan, right? Also, if you need to renew or extend your loan, so we call them predatory lenders, okay? They are looking to sink their teeth into you. If you show up to a payday loan place, they know you're desperate. They know you don't have any money, otherwise you wouldn't be there. So then they give you a loan because they know that you're very, very likely to come back to them and say, I don't have all the money now. I need a little more time. That's what they want. Because then when you go back and say, I can't pay for it all, then they start adding more money on. There's a penalty of $5 for each additional $100. Okay, so there's extra for this. So they start adding on extra fees. And there's a whole bunch of surcharges. There was actually a story in the paper, I should actually find it for you, about, I think it was a mother who was sort of complaining to the government, saying that her son used a payday loan place and borrowed a certain amount of money and had paid back like 10 times the amount borrowed because he couldn't finish paying it off. They just kept adding, kept growing, couldn't catch it. And they were allowed to do that. And she's like, why, this is criminal, why is this legal? And she's right, it shouldn't be legal. It is. And so those places are very, very dangerous. Just like rent-to-own places are very dangerous too, right? You go to a rent-to-own place, you pay a higher amount for the item than you would if you bought it in a store. And by the time you finish paying it back, you've usually paid for it a couple times. So rent-to-own places are dangerous as well.
If you miss a payment, they just come and drop it.
Yeah, and if you miss a payment, you've signed a contract that says they can just come take it away. In which case, you just gave them a bunch of free money, right? It's and usually the people that come to take the repossession agents, usually those people that show up to take the stuff away, they're usually not tiny, friendly people, right? They're usually people that you, when they show up, you back off and you just, right? I know a guy who used to run a tool rental place, and he hired ex-bikers to go repossess his tools, because some people would rent tools and they wouldn't give them back. He would just send them to the door, and the tools would show up. Oh, I got it for you. Okay, you know, and that was, he says, that was the business, right? You had the physical threat of seeing someone really big at your door, demanding something, and you know that you would cough it up. Scary stuff. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but there's just a quick example here showing you that if you have to pay $17 for every 100, yeah, it looks like 17%, but if you compare it to the time, if you have to pay it back in 14 days, if you compare that interest rate to 365 days, it really turns out to be 443.21%. Which is crazy, right? Because 365 over 14 is 26.07, so you're actually paying 26 times more than what it looks like. So if you multiply that by your 17, 443.21%. So that's, not only should it be criminal, it's unethical, right? It's morally corrupt. These businesses exist to find desperate people and then to exploit them. Very sad. Okay? And again, you won't find these businesses in areas where there's lots of big houses and new cars. Right? You find them in areas where everybody's renting, everybody's hoping to make enough money that they can buy food, you know, feed their children, buy clothes for them, like necessities of life. That's who they go after. So that's why we have it in here, to sort of talk about it and to tell you like why, you know, these places are not good places. And the second example, it shows some people will use a payday loan place, and so let's say they borrowed $1,200 and 6 days later they went in and they paid it back. Well, the shorter the time you pay it back, the higher the interest rate, the more money they make. So in this case, if you paid $17 per 100 in 6 days, you paid it back, your interest rate's actually over 1,000%. Scary stuff. Yeah. Hopefully it's not making you think you want to like own a money mart in the future, like that's your plan. I know you're better people than that. So in summary, if at all possible, borrow money from pretty much anywhere else than those places, okay? Even a credit card companies, and credit cards are bad, and they're better than those places, okay? There's no assignment in that one. That's just in there just to hopefully to frighten you. Are you frightened? Yeah? Okay. Okay. Try to catch up on your